Welcome back to Smarter Hospitality Talks. Clayton here with episode number 5. This is what I like to call Beyond the Resume, reading people, not papers. This is a very popular topic in today's times because I think pretty much everybody in the hospitality industry has been experiencing some difficulties either finding qualified candidates, dealing with some HR nightmares with candidates you have hired, or just getting ghosted completely by candidates. And then vice versa on the other side of that, potential candidates that are looking for jobs in the hospitality industry that feel like they're being ghosted or that the interviews just don't feel like they have any sustenance to them. So, we're going to dive deep into this topic. But before we get started, just in case this is your very first episode tuning in, my name is Klayton Dennis. I'm a hospitality management consultant. I've been in the hospitality, entertainment, and attractions management industry for the past 9 years. I really do consider myself a jack of all trades. And most recently, I've been in general management and operations management with a true focus on marketing and helping businesses grow and develop. So, how I do this is through training and team development. And that's why I've created this series, Smarter Hospitality Talk, to kind of focus on the training aspect of it, how to develop your business, how to grow your business, and how to develop your team, most importantly. So, I like to start all of these episodes off with the wake up call. These are kind of some hard hit facts and where this episode is coming from. But I think that everybody can really relate to this, either on the leadership, ownership side, or the candidate side as well, or the employee side. I think that the biggest thing that we're dealing with is a lack of connection to our candidates, and vice versa. Candidates aren't really taking what they're applying for seriously, which then bogs down the system overall and doesn't get the job experience that you're looking for your business. So, we've really focused on making hiring faster. The pandemic really has changed the way that a lot of the industries have started their hiring. It's a lot about hire faster, fire faster, take your time with making a decision, but then quickly, if it's not working out, quickly try to take a different direction with it. However, in this instance, I think that we've lost that smarter connection. We're not really making any connections, both on a personal, emotional level, but also we're really not making connections with what our needs really are. So there really is no alignment, and there really is just kind of a disconnect overall. 44% of employees report candidates ghosting interviews, and 35% of candidates say employers ghost them after their interviews. So that's according to Indeed in 2024. I've been on both sides of this. So I think that there's a huge amount of people applying for jobs because out of desperation, the job market is really volatile right now. There's a lot of applications coming in all at one time. Employers are having to quickly sort through all of those. It's actually 7.4 seconds is the average resume review time according to Ladders in 2024. So it's a really short burst that you've got to get your resume, your experience, and your drive on a piece of paper to the person to make that emotional connection and really dive deep into what your experience is. That's where a lot of the most experienced people are getting lost because you have maybe a larger resume than most and you're getting kicked out by technology. So most all large employers, specifically in the hospitality industry, use what we call ATS, or applicant tracking systems. A lot of those have transitioned to using artificial intelligence now to where they can screen applicants faster. And we'll get a little bit more into that in just a few moments. But 31 to 40% of new hospitality hires leave within 90 days. And that's really where all of this hiring, firing boom comes in, and why we have so much short staff is we have a lot of turnover in all of our industries, but specifically in the hospitality, which has traditionally always been kind of a high turnover society for a lot of different reasons. But in this instance, it's really saying a lot that in 2024, 31 to 40%, are finding new jobs in just 90 days. And I'm one of those, and I'll dive a little bit more into that a little bit later. But right now, we need to focus on that you're not losing candidates to other jobs, you're losing them to disconnection. That's really the focus of today's and how to change and how to evolve from that. So let's jump right into it. One of the biggest key players in our issues right now in the job market is AI and hiring. And there's a lot of pros with that. On average, there is a ton of applicants that are applying for a single position. On average, I think it's like 300 applications within 72 hours for one position. If you're a mom and pop business or you're a single GM that's trying to sort through all these to set up interviews and all that, 200 applications, that's crazy. That's an overload to you. That's not productive. And then you've got to sort through those and pick out maybe 10 qualified applicants to set up interviews for. And then out of those 10 that you've picked, how many will actually show up? That's the big question here. The good side of AI is it does speed up scheduling of interviews. It does a great job at filtering through resumes and experience, and also bias reduction, because you're not the one that's sitting there. No, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. It's actually only showing you applications that really fit the parameters that you've set on your job postings. It helps maintain consistency and compliance in questions and evaluations. That's a big one in today's time is compliance, making sure that we're staying appropriate to ADA, making sure we're staying appropriate to um, all of the inclusion, exclusion, all that type stuff, those things are key and pivotal. So AI really does help us with that. Now, the bad side of this is it's taking the human element out of it. AI screenings can eliminate non traditional talent and career changers. Um, this is also pulling out anybody who's had a lot of experience, both good or bad, short or long tenure. If they see more than five different, job bullets on your resume, it'll boot it out of the system. So you're actually dwindling it down to people who have already figured out how to run the AI and figure it out. Okay, if I send a application or a resume in that has exactly what this AI is looking for and what ATS is going to, kick up to the HR, then they're bypassing people who actually have experience that could be qualified candidates that you're now not even seeing. Algorithms can replicate historical biases. If you said in another job posting that you want somebody with 5 years of experience, that AI is going to learn. Your system, your ATS is going to learn what your patterns are, and it's only going to look for the perfect candidates because that's its job. That's what you've trained it to do. That's what you told it in your parameters that you want it to do. Over automation creates an emotionless experience. It really does, because you'll apply for a job and then you'll never hear anything. Good, bad, ugly, negative, neutral. It's total silence. There is no human element saying, "Thank you so much for applying. We appreciate your time, but unfortunately, we went on to new applicants." That's gone now. AI sorts it into a bucket that the employers never see, and then you get ghosted completely. So it creates a very non traditional, non human feeling. The only thing that we should be focusing on with AI is handling tasks. So tasks that are mundane, they're repetitive, that we aren't able to do effectively, such as create job posts. So outline, making sure that we're in compliance, making sure that it's getting our key factors there, and then also doing the verbiage for it. That's a great way to use AI. But when it comes to actually sorting through and qualifying applicants to move on to your next round of hiring, AI is not what you should be doing. Our goal is if we're hiring humans, then a human should have a touch in every step of it. So let's focus on the resume because this is a big one here. I am big on customizing my resume for the job postings that I'm applying for. And the reason for that is two sides. Number one is that ATS and AI. You want it to really feel and fit that job description that you're posting for. But on the other side of that too, I wanted to showcase my experience because I again only have about 7.5 seconds that employer may or may not look at my resume. So I want them to look at the top key bullet points and really get an emotional connection to it, or really trigger something that, okay, I want to dive deeper into it. I want to look at their experience more. The things that we need to look for that are what the patterns are. We're not looking for perfection in resumes. We want to look at the trajectory. So where did they start and where are they at now? Where are they wanting to go? If they have zero experience in management, they worked a line for the past 5 years in a fast food restaurant, and then now they're applying for a general manager's role. What trajectory has led them there? Have they shown any bullet points that they were promoted to a lead? Did they show any bullet points that they were promoted to a key holder? Those are very specific things that you have to look at before you dismiss a resume. Is what was their trajectory? Did they start in a management role and they recently ended in a management role, or are currently in one and they're applying for one? Is that their trajectory? Or also, you do have to question sometimes too. They have all management experience, and then now they're applying for an entry level role. Um, Figuring out what the trajectory is. Next one is transferability. So, all of their experience, what are the key things that I'm pulling from their resume that are going to be transferable to my business? Customer service is a big one. Leadership roles are a big one. Certifications such as ServeSafe or TABC or something like that. Those are huge ones that I don't have to build into my training and onboarding process with this candidate. So if we can bypass a lot of this stuff because they already have it, then that makes it an easier fit for me. and it's going to save me a lot of time and be more applicable to my operation. Next thing is impact. So what did they do, or does their resume depict what goals they've achieved? And it needs to be measurable results. And these are things that ATS is looking for as well. So they reduce complaints by 15%. That's intriguing because then I'm going to ask in the interview. So I noticed on your resume that you reduced complaints by 15%. Can you tell me a little bit how you did that and how you would do that for us? Um, they need to show some sort of metrics, so specifically if they're in a higher level management role. They need to understand that we need to see what they've achieved, especially if it was a short tenure. We need to understand what they were able to accomplish in that short amount of time, if anything. And finally, context. Do they show awareness to the bigger picture? Is there a lot of verbiage that are used that shows that they have a high level of intelligence or a high level of reasoning? Are they able to adapt their resume to my needs to convey it to me in a professional way that I want to hire them? Red flags that you need to look at: frequent shifts with no narrative. Now, a lot of times, and I think in today's times, I'm one of the victims. And I'll go into it a little bit more in detail. But job hoppers are is the new term. Oh, you change jobs every year. Yes, but what's the narrative behind that? What jobs did you move from, into, and why are you wanting to come to me? Is it a progressive growth? Is it because in the market you're in, it's a very seasonal area, and this time of year there's no jobs, and now you're looking for something that's going to sustain you, or maybe create that more consistent timing every year? Is that what you're doing? But basically, you have to look at it. You can't just judge it on that. Another red flag would be passive, so responsible for phrasing. Responsible for can insinuate that you're not in charge of it. You're responsible for it, but you didn't have any hands-on actual manipulation of it. And that can be hard sometimes because I use responsible for, but we should always try to find a way to word it to where we show that we have built a team, we've empowered our team, we've driven results, something like that. It's just the verbiage that you use. It's kind of a game. But and then generic language over real outcomes. So just saying, I improved the overall guest experience. Okay, but that doesn't tell me in 7.8 seconds why or how or who or when or where. You've got to be specific in how you build your resume so that employers will look at it. But then also, employers are going to see those three things as red flags. The next thing is, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay as an employer to reach out to an applicant and say, "Hey, I noticed a big gap in your resume. Can you tell me a little bit about it?" Or, "Hey, I noticed that you have noted on your resume that you have built new construction resorts. Can you give me a little bit more information on that?" Or if there's an area that your gut is telling you this doesn't seem right, can you give me a little bit more elaboration? It's perfectly okay. But always require references, 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 because you can contact those employers that they provide to you and get a good feedback. But be careful with that situation because those references could be hand chosen by that representative and you don't know. So make sure that you have hard hitting questions when you do reach out to those references. So let's dive into a little bit of job hopping versus career growth. Now, on paper and within my experience, I appear to be a job hopper. I'm not going to lie. But the thing is, I'm constantly hungry for growth. I want to continue to learn more. I want to be a huge asset to a team, and I want to take on bigger challenges. I'm 31 years old, and in my tenure, I have started out in a professional role off land, no experience at 21. So in 10 years' time, I have accomplished a lot. I have learned more than probably 20 years of experience in that short amount of time. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert in an area. I never convey that in any possible way. But what I'm saying is those career jumps, those career moves that I have made have all been very calculated. It's all been things that I want to continue to grow or excel at, or I want to challenge myself in a new direction, specifically in the hospitality industry. I went from managing cruise ship entertainment productions on board ships to into the hospitality resort general manager's role. That's the trajectory that I'm on. I want to continue to challenge myself. I want to continue to get those challenges brought to my table, and I want to see if I can do it. And then also at the same time, I never want to turn down an opportunity if the timing is right. And a lot of times, the good Lord willing, the timing has always been right. There's been situations where I've been faced with, there's going to be no way out of this, or this is boxing me in into a position to where I can't ever leave, or if I do leave, this is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. So whenever these opportunities pop up, I do take them. And in hospitality and tourism sector, nearly 45% of employees change employers every 18 to 24 months, primarily for growth or better conditions. That was according to the American Hotel and Lodging Association Workforce Outlook in 2024. So 40% of employees change their employers about every 18 to 24 months. I fit that dialogue. And the reason for that is I am looking for growth. I am looking for better conditions. I'm wanting to be listened to. I'm wanting to be taught new things. I'm wanting to grow and learn myself as an individual, but also I want to grow with the business and I want to help grow a business. So that's really things that I take into consideration. Job hopping is where you quit a job every 6 weeks because the going got tough and you don't want to be a part of it. So whenever you as an employer are screening an interviewee that you assume is a job hopper, you need to ask those serious in-depth questions and you need to grill them on them because I'm used to getting grilled on it all the time. And I'll guarantee you I have a very polished answer and I'm 100% transparent and honest in all positions that I'm at. And all it takes is for you to ask. The next step of that is on the employee side, you need to have those polished and you need to understand that they are going to grill you on why you've changed jobs so often. And the better way that you polish your response based on the truth and honest opinions, because they will find out the truth no matter what, you have to be very polished, professional, and precise on how you answer those questions if you want to continue to grow and you want it to be a career growth change versus a job hop. So job hopping versus career growth continued. Again, we just kind of diving into that context there. We have to consider everybody who comes to me with a resume that everything on their resume is truthful, it's honest, and there's really no good way for me to judge it based off of an interview. I have to see their skills in action, and the only way that I can do that effectively is to put them on my payroll and try it out. And it's okay to put them on a 30, 60, 90-day probationary period because that builds it into where you understand and they understand that there will be goals that they must achieve, there will be skills that they have to master, and more importantly, the trust and bond have to be built before you can move on to the next phase or make it a permanent placement. Don't hesitate to do that. The problem is whenever you don't take potential interest in individuals that have changed their career trajectory a lot or frequently, is you may be losing insightful information from the industry in which they've worked in. They may have gained skills, they may have gained certifications, they've been put into challenging situations that you may have never faced yourself as a business owner or as a general manager in your industry. So, what you have to do is take a chance both sides of this because I'm taking a chance as an employee applying for your position, vice versa, as an employer, I'm taking a chance on every employee that I hire. Would you want to take a chance on an individual that has zero experience, doesn't really show that they have a lot of drive, or do you want to take the chance on someone who does have experience, but you want to make sure that you understand what drives them and motivates them before you hire them? Because if those don't align with your expectations or how your operation actually goes, then you will be finding a new employee. So average tenure in hospitality is 1.8 to 2.5 years. That's according to BLS in 2024. Gen Z and millennials value development, growth, and culture fit. Totally agree with this. I want to grow. I want to learn. I want to be challenged. I want to be, offered positions to where I am being challenged on a daily basis. I eat, sleep, and breathe work. I'm a workaholic, so I look for positions like that. When I'm given the opportunity, I prove in a very short amount of time that I have the skills that you've hired me to do and more. But in this day and age, I'm learning as a professional that you have to pull that back because they see all this skill and they want it all up front. And that's for a different talk in a different episode. But Gen Z and millennials, they really do want to be able to develop. So they want you to train them, they want you to teach them, they want to have valuable lessons that truly they can use to grow themselves. And they want to be a part of your growth. They want to help in the decision making. They want to be empowered to make decisions and they want to be able to have their voices heard. The next thing is it's a culture fit. And we've talked about culture in a lot of our other topics and the other 4 episodes, but it really truly is. If your culture is not in alignment with the employee that you're hiring, they're going to leave. If it's not in alignment with what you're advertising or what you said, if you said in the interview that we're a family here, and then they get there and everyone hates each other and they talk behind each other's back, and then you degrade all your employees, that's not a culture fit. That is a culture lie. And those individuals will go and find other jobs. So here's the right questions to ask with people that you assume are job hoppers. What did each move teach you? So when you look at their resume, if they were a general manager at a resort and they were there for 6 months, you need to ask them did that teach you in that 6 months? What skills did you gain that you hadn't had before? What did you learn about leadership or guest experience from that change? In that short amount of time, what goals did you achieve? What did you accomplish in that short amount of time? And based on their answers, you can either continue on or you'll know that that's not the candidate. We need to also remember to hire for trajectory, not tenure. That is the biggest flaw in 2025 is employers are focusing on they want longevity. They want employees that are going to stay with them for 2 or more years. But you're not focusing on the true realm there. You need to focus on trajectory because where do these employees want to grow? What is their goals? What are they wanting to achieve? Are they just going to be here for a paycheck or is this going to be my future CFO? That's how you have to start thinking things. Frequent moves with growth logic equals career progression. If you're making constant moves and you're obtaining more and more leadership roles, you're obtaining more asset control, then your career is progressing. That's the way my resume reads is I continue to progress in my career. Those individuals who bounce around to different job titles. So they were a general manager here for 3 months. They moved to a dishwasher for 6 weeks. They moved here to a general manager's role and lasted a year. And then they moved over here and they were a housekeeping manager for 6 weeks. Those are instabilities and they don't reflect skills that are growth. There is no growth trajectory there. That is all bouncing around, changing jobs, and most likely it's probably out of instability or them needing to find stability to financially survive. Now let's move into a totally different topic, and where a lot of this stems from is the job board mirage. Now, a majority of all of us in hospitality use Indeed, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, yada yada yada. Whatever job board that you're using, you've probably used it or you're currently using it now. I want to ask you a question, and it doesn't require an answer because we're going to dive into the question a little bit more. But is it working for you? How many applicants do you get that actually show up for an interview, and how many of them have you actually hired in the past 6 weeks? That's my question to you. How many employees have you hired from a job posting site like LinkedIn or Indeed in the past 6 weeks, and how many of them survived your hiring process? Because that's the questions we have to ask. We have to start asking, is this effective? Is this efficient? And is this providing me with candidates that actually have the experience I need to develop and continue to grow my business, if not stabilize my business to develop that foundation to where we can continue to grow? The hospitality job post on major boards such as Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor receives 150 to 250 applications in just 72 hours, and less than 25% of those are genuinely qualified. So I want you just to pause for a moment here. You're hiring for a position. Let's just say it's a housekeeper. You're hiring for a housekeeper, and you get 150 on the low end applications in 72 hours. How do you, with everything that you juggle on a daily basis, actually effectively go through all those applications? My answer to you is you don't. You would go through and filter out things that the job board would pull for you. So they would find your top applicants using that artificial intelligence or the ATS. They would find the qualified applicants for you and they're going to put them at the top of your list. And those are the ones you're going to focus on. So from an employee standpoint or a candidate standpoint, that's really crucial here. Your resume and your profile have to align perfectly with the jobs that you're applying for. If you do not have experience in one small thing, so for that housekeeping position, I have a requirement that they must have 2 years of housekeeping experience. If your resume only has one job post and you were there for 6 months, that is automatically going to kick you out. You are not applying for jobs that you are qualified to apply for. And I'm guilty of it too. You'll apply for jobs that you have pretty much everything except for maybe one thing. But to that employer, that one key skill may be the deciding factor. It may be a system or point of sale system or a property management system that they utilize that you must know like the back of your hand and have multiple years of experience in that area because that's what they need. That's their problem area and that's who they're looking to come in and fix. So if you don't have that, don't take it as a bad thing, but go look for jobs that you really do fit well with. And sometimes that's a harsh reality. Your job area that you may not, want to work in may be the only thing that is available at that time, and that's a hard reality. That's the way the hospitality industry works at this time. Recruiters report that 1 in 4 applications show automated or bot-like patterns such as instant apply, missing information, or duplicate emails. So, with that being said, there's a lot of our applications that are coming in that I'm gonna be honest with you are not real. It's AI driven because there's applications now out there that applicants can use that AI will basically go out and just randomly start applying for jobs. They'll put in the parameters and the jobs, the titles that they're looking for, and then the AI will go build a resume, go into your system, align that resume with what you're wanting. They'll even craft a cover letter. They'll submit it to the employer, and they will take care of all the communication for you. That is what is bogging down our systems. We're getting these AI bots that are sending those applications in. And then another side of this, too, these job boards, they want to make money off of you, so they want you to promote your job posting. So if you start getting a lot of applications, then that looks like value to you. You're getting 200 applications in 72 hours. Wow, that is impressive. I'm getting reach. But in reality, only 25% of those are genuinely qualified, and that's because I would say a good majority of those applications that you received in that 72 hours are not real. They are fake. They are made up to drive those click results because it's a financial gain for those job board postings. That's why they get frustrated whenever you post a free job board ad. Talk to me that offline. I've got some fun stories for you on that one. Your 200 applications are not 200 people. They are 40 maybe qualified humans, 30 casual scrollers, and 130 clicks that cost you money. That's the reality of this. Recruiters now spend an average of 7 to 10 hours per week filtering junk subscriptions before reaching real candidates. So let's face it, if we have 200 applications that came in 72 hours, I'm going to be filtering through with my busy day on average about 20. That's about how many I can juggle effectively. That's me going through every one of their resumes, looking at their job history, looking at their timeline, looking at what skills that they have, and really assessing, okay, is this person right or wrong? And then this is me investigating their profile, seeing if they're active on their LinkedIn, seeing if they've made active social media posts to see if their culture aligns with our business, seeing if they followed up through email or they've called me. Those things bump it because that's the human element that we desire as leaders trying to hire effective employees. So if I'm spending 7 to 10 hours per week filtering through these junk submissions, that's causing me a lot of efficiency errors on my actual things that my bottom line, me driving results in my business. I'm now focusing on filtering through, is this real, is this not? Then the frustration comes of, will they actually show up for the job? So, why old fashioned in the job board mirage still works? And that is because with all the AI, with all the ATS filtering, with all of the bogus and waste of time applications, we'll just put it at that, it's best for us to figure out a way to go old fashioned. So in-person posting, so putting a sign up at your business, if you've got a digital marquee or a digital billboard, putting up that we're hiring, posting to the local newspaper, reaching out to your local media if they do a segment on available jobs, getting out to your career centers, focusing on trade schools and churches, volunteer groups, specifically with like our campground hospitality area. That's a great way, is looking for work campers, people who are wanting to travel, wanting to see the sights, and are willing to come in and work 24 hours a week to help you at your front desk, and then they get a free campsite out of it. Those are things that you have to build partnerships with. You've got to use that. And then I think a lot of resorts are starting to figure out creative ways to attract new candidates as well, especially with those with experience. And then finally, use your social media, use your digital marketing skills. We've talked in episode 3 about your campfire and building clicks instead of we're wanting to build more of an experience, and you need key players to build that experience, to tell your story, to grow your campfire and keep it burning. It's the same way with hiring. We have to focus on what we want, what we need. We have to be honest, real with what we're saying, and we've got to make an emotional connection with who we hire. Otherwise, our big vision is not going to happen. Our campfire is going to go out. Realistic job posts versus actual needs. This is big. I talked a little bit about this, I believe, in episode number 2, which is, if you hire them for experience, then use them and listen to them. This is big too. If you're looking for an experienced candidate, then you need to be providing realistic expectations with what you're providing. So if you're looking for an experienced candidate with more than 5 years experience, then your pay needs to show that you care about their 5 years experience. They also need to have benefits available to them because they're going to be making a career change. They're not going to be making a job hop. They're going to be making a career change and potentially a trajectory change. Um, we have to match what our desired expectations are to what our realistic expectations are for that employee. If you're wanting them to work 60 hours a week on a salaried income, then their pay needs to make it to where even if they work 60 hours, they're making at least two times what the minimum wage is. And that's going to make it very comparable to them. I mean, the biggest thing that we have to focus on is taking care of our people and making it to where the cost of living doesn't affect their judgment, it doesn't affect their passion for wanting to come to work. And we need to reward that, because the better we reward our employees and make them feel wanted, the more likely their longevity is going to be with us. Realistic job previews improve retention by 23% according to SHRM in 2023. So the checklist for how we get those actual realistic posts is we need to list top 6 recurring duties. So what are you going to actually be doing? If they are a front desk manager, but also they're the ones that are cleaning rooms because you don't have any housekeepers, you need to make sure that that's one of their recurring duties. If this front desk person also is the one that preps the breakfast because they're the overnight shift, then you need to say that they're cooking and preparing food for the breakfast buffet. If they are a manager, but really they don't manage anybody, then is that title really accurate? You need to state their pay range. So it's okay if you don't say this is going to make exactly 60,000 unless that's all you're willing to pay. You're not going to budge on it at all. Or you need to have a realistic pay range. If you're wanting to set your budget for this role at 60,000 a year, don't put between 50,000 and 100,000, because you aren't even going to plan on going above 60,000. Be honest, be realistic, be transparent, because those qualified candidates, if they're looking to set within their budget, that's definitely not going to fit what their needs are. And they won't be applying for your position, or you won't get longevity out of them if they actually do take a position with you. Add a day in the life blurb. I read the job descriptions top to bottom. I read them multiple times. Even after I apply, I'll go back and prepare myself for a potential interview, and I'll get questions going. And so that's what you should be doing, is you need to put a day in the life. You need to say that the front desk manager will come in and they will do an audit of all of your financials. They will then go and prep the breakfast buffet for the next morning. They will then go and clean the rooms and fold laundry in the laundry room, and then they will also clean the pool and take out the trash. Those are very important, realistic expectations to where you're not setting them up for surprises later on. Use real team photos and not stock art if you're going to be using social media. So use real current employees. Do not use employees that have been fired or employees that have quit on bad terms. Use employees that are current, that you see as your role models, because technically, if when we start to associate a person through a digital content and then we actually see them in action and they're a good positive influence, then that is a good representation of what your brand is. Don't advertise fantasy, just go with realistic expectations. Next thing is something that I have experienced for many years now, specifically since the pandemic. And this is the new thing: is you will get people ready for an interview, specifically through like Indeed. You will set up an interview with them. You got it in black and white. They're excited. They'll be there at 8 a.m. tomorrow. And then 9 o'clock rolls around and they never show up. They never call you, never text you, never email you, don't ever show up. It's what we call ghosting in the industry. You've been completely ghosted. This is also happening on the other side too, of employers, where they will go in and they will look at your application and then never send you a response. So even if they don't think that you're going to be a qualified candidate, or they've gotten busy and that they didn't pay attention, they're not actually engaging with you. They look at your resume and move on, and then they don't say anything. You're completely ghosted as a candidate as well. 48-hour response windows reduced ghosting by 40%, according to Indeed in 2024. And candidates who visit the property pre hire have 30% lower early turnover, according to Career Plug in 2023. So, what does that mean? Well, if I get them here for an actual in person interview, there's 3 things that are happening. Number one, I'm checking to see if they're actually going to show up and what their attendance time is going to be like. So, if they're 15 minutes early to their interview, that's probably the expectation that I can have with them showing up. If they are right on time or they're 5 minutes late, then that's probably what their abilities are like as an employee. The next thing that I'm seeing is I'm getting to see actual behavioral takes on when they get to my facility. Do they look like they're uncomfortable? Do they look like they would stick out like a sore thumb on my team? That's not discrimination. It's better fitting to your needs and your guest needs and your story. But then third thing is this someplace that they're going to want to work? They're being able to come in and see how your staff are portraying themselves. If you're portraying and you're expecting them to be a team player, but then while they're there, they notice that your team has no smiles, they hate their job, they're playing on their phones, that's the expectations that they are now walking into. Um, this is a great way for them to measure. And then when you get them on site, they get to see what it's like to drive to the location. They'll get to see what it's like when they walk in the doors. They'll see the expectation of your current employees that are working or yourself as the leader. That's the big thing there. And then tips to get them to actually show up is confirm by text or by email, and then send a Google Map link identifying exactly where to go, who to ask to get me to come out for the interview, where to sit and wait for the interview, where to check in at, where to park. Those are key details that are going to engage them because that looks like you're prepared. You're showing them because you want them, you're setting them up for success right out of the gates. If you just say, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, and then you don't tell them which door to enter, they get there and then they're stressed out because now they don't know where you're at and where to go. It sets it up for a really bad experience. Offer two times. So always offer, don't just say what time works best for you. Say, okay, I have a 2:30 and a 5 o'clock available. That allows them to make a choice, and that also opens it up that you are flexible and that you're willing to work with their schedule because you do show that you care and you notice that they're human. And then also send a follow up reminder. A text takes you 5 seconds to type and say, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 8 a.m. If you have any trouble, please feel free to give me a call. And then also call and confirm. Make sure it's a real person. Don't just rely on texts and emails. Actually call them and confirm. Hey, I just wanted to put a voice with an email. My name's Klayton. I just wanted to double check and make sure you got the information I sent over. You know where to go. And that way they get a personal touch and they also kind of get your tone already. They know who they're going to be talking to. It makes a connection to a real person. If the job is in person, the interview should be too. This is a big one. COVID has really ruined the way interviews are conducted. I think companies take a lot of focus out of the human element and the tools that you can get out of a real in person interview. I also, as a professional industry, truly hate video interviews. I would much rather, either travel to your location if it's within a reasonable travel. We're saying within like 5 hour drive if I'm looking at a big role, and we're looking at possibly 45 minutes if I'm looking for more of an entry level role. I'm okay with driving. I would much rather be in person. I want to get those context clues of how your facility runs, what it's like to actually be behind the scenes, what your staff is interacting like if I've never been there before. I feed off of that stuff. I would much rather it be in person. But if you're setting the expectation that this person is going to be in person every single day, then the interview should be as well, because we set that expectation of you have to show up on time, you have to dress professionally, and you have to arrive whenever you're asked to arrive and do what you're asked to do. Up to 80% of communication is nonverbal, and when we do it virtually, it's very hard for us to pick up on those nonverbal cues as well as our actions that we're not really in voluntary control of. If we show that we're nervous, if we show that we're uncomfortable, it's very hard for me behind a screen. And a lot of day and age, I think people hide behind the screen as well because it's very hard for me to not have two monitors that are right behind my computer screen with notes or answers to the questions. Or even nowadays, what's happening is you have an AI bot that is listening to your conversation and asks you the questions and gives you the answers in real time. If you don't put them in front of you in the seat, in the actual environment that they'll be working in, you'll never get those nonverbal cues and behavioral analysis that you need to make a decision on, is this person going to work? 83% of hospitality jobs require in person work, yet 56% of interviews are virtual still back in 2024 by AHLA. Also, offer to walk the space. If you really feel like this is a strong candidate, not only will this give them an indicator that you're taking them seriously and you appreciate their time for driving wherever they're driven from, but give them a tour, walk them through the space. Show them where they would be working or introduce them to one of their teammates that they may potentially be working with. This is not guaranteeing them a job, but this is building their confidence. This is getting them more excited. You can also read that as, are they excited? Are they uncomfortable? Do they say that they're claustrophobic in spaces that don't have windows, or that they can't see the outside world? Those are things of, is this person going to fit? Because that's the goal of an interview, is this a good fit or not? Let's talk about interview questions. So once you've got them there, you're seated with them. Now, how do I ask questions that are going to be impactful? The biggest questions I hate that I've been asked a lot in 2025 that really give you no substance as an employee is, why do you want to work here? As an employer, if that's the only question I have for you as an applicant, number one, the applicant, you should run, because whenever you ask that question, that means to tell me that you don't really care about my experience. You don't want to challenge me with any questions. You just want to know why I want to work here. Why did you apply? In that situation, a lot of times they're digging for information as to, you have too much experience. We're not going to be able to pay you what you're worth. And we're probably not going to use any of the experience that you have. And we're going to retrain your thought and process. In that situation, when they do ask you that question, that's 99.9% of the time what's happening there is they know you're not going to be a good fit, and they want to see if you say something that is going to lead them down a different path. So if you get the question of, why do you want to work here, with no other context, and it's in a very dry tone, which happens a lot in 2025, run away. The way we ask questions as employers, or leaders, is we need to be able to have them answer a challenging question, ask them an uncomfortable question, and not necessarily uncomfortable as inappropriate, but I meaning ask them a question that makes them think, but also lets them know that you're analyzing their thought process. You're analyzing their judgment calls. You're analyzing how they handle guest or customer interactions. And you're also handling those tricky situations that maybe you don't know the answers to, and you're trying to get somebody on your team that can help you with those. So, how they tell the story reveals how they react in your lobby. And that's totally true. With your questions are structured the right way and they impact either a situation, an action, or a reflection, then that is going to give you real insight into what they're doing. And that's really the equation of interview questions with purpose and context, is situation and an action and a reflection on how that action and situation affected you as a leader and what you learned from it equals the real insight on what you need as an employer to figure it out. So, what a purposeful question does is it provides contextual real relevance. So, if you have context clues and what they're saying is not necessarily what you're looking for, then that instantly in that response that they're giving you is going to let you know they're probably not the right candidate for you. It gives you behavioral focus, so it gets real examples of how they've handled situations, or even hypothetical can be considered that way, because you may ask them a question about a part of the industry that they've never worked in before, and it's okay not to know the right answers. But if they give you hypothetical situation through answers, it does make a good tale for you to be able to make heads or tails if it's going to work or not. Also, it's an emotional mirror. It shows how they handle stress, feedback, and ambiguity. So, with this, if you're asking these purposeful questions, I love to see when I ask a question and the candidate has to stop and think a moment. Or they have to say, well, I can answer that, but I'm going to answer it in two parts, because that's showing me that they're taking a thought and they're trying to apply it to a real situation that they've had. They're making what action, or they're reviewing what actions they did, and they're reflecting on the overall situation to really give me real insight and what their abilities are. So let's dive into some example questions here. These are areas highlighted in orange that I want to focus on as a leader. So, guest empathy and recovery. So, if you know that you have some issues with your facility because it's an older facility, or you've had a change in ownership, and now you've got some struggles that you need to kind of get through because you've got a little uncomfortable situation going. You need to know how an employee coming into those situations is going to handle it. So, in this situation, guest empathy and recovery is something, maybe we need to give a refund, or they've had a bad experience and you need to navigate out of it. So tell me about a guest interaction that didn't go as planned, and how did you handle it? This, when they answer, it reveals their emotional regulation, so how they handled the stressful situation and the guest interaction. A lot of times, you're going to get them to tell you negative guest interactions, that they were, irate or angry or upset with you, and that's good because they're remembering how the emotions made them feel. And they also remembered, or they're going to tell you how they regulated and remained calm, professional, and they helped the guest. And most 9 times out of 10 in an interview, they're probably going to tell you that they turned it around and do a positive. And then they're also going to give you insight on if they owned the problem and how they took ownership of it, or if they delegated it off to someone else. The next thing is, when I'm looking for leadership or in team dynamics or team building, I'm looking at, how do you coach a team member who's performing poorly? Because we always want to focus on kind of our least high performing employee, because those are areas that maybe we didn't train effectively. Maybe there's some challenges that we haven't addressed. And that's the area we have to focus on, because our lowest or our weakest link is the thing that keeps the chain going. So if our weakest link doesn't get the attention and our new employees come in and they don't really know how to deal with that, then we may not have a good fit here. So this is going to show me how they communicate. So how they effectively communicate with the team, how they show empathy for situations. Do they analyze the situation? And then also their progress integration. So, um, or integrity, sorry. With their integrity, how did they follow through with what their policy and procedure was? What was their process from start to finish on helping that individual? Was it kind of broken? Does it not make sense? Does it not actually translate to real applicable? And also, does it fit what you would want to have done? Next is prioritization. During a busy day with multiple guest issues, how do you decide what to handle first? This is critical thinking and also their judgment. So, how did they handle the situation? What did they take over? And what did they do first? And what did they do last? And then did they not do something? And then how did they recover from that? And the next is accountability. Tell me about a mistake you made and how did you fix it? I love this one because this brings that human connection to it, of where you have to look back and analyze, because in an interview it's easy for you to try to portray yourself as being perfect, because that's even what the employer does, is that this is the perfect place to work. So you as an employee have to step back and make yourself not so perfect, and you've got to think about a mistake that you made, and then how did you fix it. This is going to show you their integrity, their humility, and their responsibility in those situations. So, talking again about the reading behaviors, because that's the most pivotal portion here, we're looking at presence, micro reactions, listening, and warmth. So, does this person show up on time? Were they on time? Were they smiling? Were they happy? Were they in a professional posture, or did they just slouch when they sit down? Were they nervous? Did they have their hands crossed the whole time? Did they fidget with their fingers the whole time because they were nervous? Micro reactions is calm under challenge. So, an interview is usually a nervous time for some individuals. So, how did they react to some of the questions you're asking? Did they calm down, or did they remain uncomfortable the entire time? When they're listening, when you're talking, are they taking pauses? Are they really thinking effectively with it? Is there curiosity? Do they question you? Do they ask you more in depth questions? Secondly, when you do ask them if they have any questions, do they have good formed questions? And then, how do they interpret how you are asking those questions? What are they interpreting you as? Or are they just giving you the answers that you want to hear, or are they giving you some more thought? Are they giving you context behind it? And then finally, do they interrupt you? I've had several interviews over the past month with candidates, and I was interrupted. And I hate to tell you, but that's my biggest pet peeve. If I'm talking or I'm saying something, just pause for a moment, listen to what I have to say, just smile and nod your head and go on with it, and then insert. But don't bombard me or interrupt me. It's very frustrating, and a lot of employers will be like that. And then finally, warmth. Are they authentic? Do they act like they want to be here, or do they just completely act like they stick out like a sore thumb and they are just here to just get a paycheck? Because that's what you're going to be hiring. Hiring T fit. Um, Hiring based on the team fit reduces turnover by 32%, according to LinkedIn in 2024. All right, so let's talk about the power of alignment. This came from another one of our episodes, but I've just kind of form fit it. It's really what your success depends on, is your alignments. If your resume, if their resume doesn't fit what your needs are, then you're probably not going to hire them. But vice versa, if your job description doesn't match what you talk about in your interview, then they're probably going to have questions. Or vice versa, if your job description doesn't match what you're actually doing in that job, you're probably not going to have longevity out of it. So when there's mismatch, there's obviously going to be a meltdown. So be honest. If you're going through some conflicts or challenges currently, you need to be upfront and transparent with it. It's 2025. Unless it's some kind of legal battle or something that's related to a compliance that could affect that outcome or put other people in jeopardy, just be upfront. And even in those situations, just be upfront and honest that we've got a little bit of a situation that you may be involved in. I'm going to give you some key insights, but I just want to let you know that we'll be standing behind you to make resolution of that. And then also be transparent with the expectations. Don't have any surprises. Don't change things up after they get there. If you've hired a manager and then you show up and they're just going to be cooking or washing dishes every day, that's going to be a huge huge, kick to them. And so you really need to understand what the truth is, what realistic expectations are, and what the real world job is like. Don't set this up as being, an office job when in reality you're never in your office. You need to understand to align what are you looking for in an employee? What are you looking to fill? What are your goals? What do you want out of these employees? What do they need to be able to handle, and who will do what? So understanding what the roles and responsibilities are from all the job titles. So that brings us to the conclusion of this episode, and we move into my favorite section, which is the smarter shift. These are areas and questions and tools that you'll be able to use to shape your operations and even make you stop and think today and come up with a better solution and a smarter way to resolve issues, or even in this situation, how to more smart and more effectively hire your next employees. So today's smarter shift is going to be a mock interview question. I want everyone to focus on your interview questions that you're currently using, and has it been effective? Are you asking the right questions? If you have a very quick turnover of an employee, you need to really evaluate, did I ask the right questions? Did I set this scenario up for them in a realistic way that they felt welcome and they felt wanted here? And if you don't know the answer to that question, then I want you to create new interview questions, 6 to 8 of them, and they need to tap into behavioral, motivation, leadership, problem resolution, and empowerment. They need to tie in with all of your policy procedures, your actual realistic workplace, and your expectations for the job. What behaviors are you measuring in each of these questions? How do you want them to respond? Do you want their responses to be constructive, or do you want their responses to be a yes or a no? What is your goal with each of these questions? What are you trying to get out of the individual? And then also, how will they react, or how should they react? In these situations, we need to look on both sides of the fence from both an employer standpoint and the candidate. And whenever we're trying to fit a new candidate to a role that we have available or that we're interviewing for, you got to keep it real. You've got to be transparent. You've got to make sure that your questions are making an impact and you're getting the answers that you want to hear, but you're also getting answers that maybe you don't want to hear. Because in that situation, that makes your decision a lot easier, or vice versa. It may question how you're handling your operations. So, again, this has been Smarter Hospitality Talk. I hope today's episode has really helped you in looking into the current hiring crisis, but also more of how we flow through our interviewing process, how we get to our hiring phase, and how we analyze candidates to be more effective in who we hire. I think that full transparency, better communication, understanding our context, and understanding what our needs and goals are really do make a huge pivotal impact. Just like with every episode, I do ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That really does show me how many people are engaged. But also, more importantly, I'd love to hear your feedback, any ideas or contrasting information that you may think that maybe I didn't cover or that you don't necessarily agree with. I love either way to have a little bit of a discussion point, and it allows me to shape new episodes moving into the future. Tell me what you'd like to hear topics on, and vice versa. Tell me what works or what doesn't work for you, or maybe some of your struggles that you're currently facing in today's industry. Let's make sure to put those in the comment sections. And if you don't want to put them in the comment sections, that's perfectly okay too. Head on over to hospiqconsulting.com and go in and fill out a contact us form. Send me an email, and that way I'll be able to respond, and we can even set up a phone call or something to where we could discuss it a little bit further. Thank you so much for watching Hospitality Talks. My name is Klayton. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you on one of our next episodes right here. Thank you for watching, and thanks so much for supporting the hospitality industry each and every day as professionals.